oh, what a scoop. Jim is trashing the way things are now. They're not creating either WWE or AEW. They're not creating big stars anymore. There are no new Steve Austins. There are no Rocks around now.
Yeah.
And it's because everyone's sort of in this layer of generic, and then boom, da-da, da-da, da-da. It needed something that kind of kicked you in the ass, and that's when I came up with that. I didn't do these classic things like, oh, well, the first day we're going to get drum sounds.
Yeah.
It's like, no, in the first minute, I'm going to get a drum sound.
Yeah.
Okay, we're done with that part. Just say whatever I say, but in your,
Yeah. Make it
go
you.
fuck yourself tone of voice.
Yeah.
It's like, you think you can tell us what to do?
You
think you can tell us what to do?
Yeah. Lethal, you're here. Welcome back to The False Face, episode 8. My guest this week is Jim Johnston of WWE fame. And yes, it is hard to say WWE. Is it easier to say WWF? I think so. Jim Johnston of WWF fame joins me this week to discuss trivial matters such as where the samples on Scotty 2 Hotty's theme came from, the mechanics of writing Stone Cold Steve Austin's music and whether or not Rage Against the Machine were involved, but also we have a much broader discussion about the topic of music and human connection in general. We talk about ideas like, when is a piece of music ever actually finished? How does it come to be that you can write a piece of music that is by definition for another person and then realize a year later that you were trying to say something about yourself? And how do you project truth whenever you're trying to compose pieces of music for performers that are going to be heard all around the world in places that speak different languages, for thousands, millions of people that you're never going to meet? How do you connect in that sense? It was a brilliant privilege getting to speak to Jim, somebody whose music I've been listening to for many, many years. And I have to just thank Jim for his indulgence in some of those trivial questions. And if I can beg your indulgence for a second, I'd also like to pay special thanks to my old and dear friend Barry Connolly, who was the one that gave me the kick to get this episode recorded in the first place. He was the one that said, you like Jim Johnston? He'd be interesting. Have him on the show. He's on the show. Thank you, Barry. As always, friends, The False Face is presented in association with Mental Health for Metalheads, which looks like this. Beautiful hand-painted cover art by Ed Repke. The link to buy the book is in the description below. You'll also get interior art from John Cowan, aka 1024, and most recently of Murrow. And the book has over 666 things that you can practice to try and improve your mental well-being, and it comes thoroughly and forcefully endorsed. Grab it. The show is also proudly presented in association with Barker's Blastfest, an all-day death metal extravaganza taking place in October in Manchester to raise money for Nick Barker's GoFundMe campaign. More details about Blastfest are available if you follow the links that you can see on screen. All that remains for me to say is thank you for spending any of your time here at The False Face. I really do appreciate it. It's a stone cold gas to have you. If you want to take a look at some of the other videos, you'll find more conversations that I think might appeal in terms of those who are fond of Jim's music. I've got Dan Forden was on the show not so long ago, who did the music for Mortal Kombat in the 1990s. So similarly, that was talking with a composer about creating small pieces of music that were designed to be associated with either a place or a person or a theme. But also I've had a bunch of metal guys on the channel. I've spoken to guitarists and singers and drummers and all sorts. So get subscribed and take a look at the archive as well. More to come from several of those folks as well. So if you like something from them, chances are you're going to see more of it too. And let's have a chat in the comments. I mean, this should be easy. What's your favourite Jim Johnston piece of music? Let me know in the comments. I tried to get a chat going with him about Tiger Ali Singh / the Iron Sheiks music, and I think if I had been feeling it, I would have pushed for a little bit more detail on that. But there's tons, literally hundreds, maybe even thousands. So what are some of your favourites? What do you like about Jim's work? And indeed, what would you like to see more of here on The False Face? If you let it be known in the comments, and I can make it so, I will make it so. But for now, I'm going to let you get on to the chat with Jim because it's a clinker, and I'll just say, like, subscribe, love yous. See you next time.
Hey, Paul.
Jim, how are you?
I'm well.
We're Green Cup bros.
I know, it was destined.
It was destined to be. Thanks for making the time.
You're welcome. You're very quiet.
Okay, I've had people say this to me before, and you're a guy who's got Are you in the studio now? You're in, is it
I am.
Third Meadow? Is that, did I get that right?
I am.
All right, it's a little plug there, but okay, we're going to get this right. I'm going to turn the gain up on this a little bit. How's that? Is that okay? Still quiet?
That's much better.
Okay, we'll go with that then. Yeah, I'm still trying to get. I'm still getting used to this whole thing. So, yeah.
I know I would imagine that it takes some time to, the people who've been doing it a long time, obviously they're as fluid as newscasters on TV, and
Mm-hmm.
but I would think getting used to all parts of it, the technology, just
Yeah.
being comfortable sitting there and
Yeah. Yeah, between the two of us, it's
conversation going.
the conversation part's easy, but everything else is just is awful. To be honest with you, it's kind of what put me off doing it for so long. But it's just,
So are you a drummer?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And your favorite music is?
It's it's metal broadly,
Mhm.
and more the more extreme side. That's the kind of thing I'm into
Really?
mostly. Yeah, but I'm also a big jazz head, and I really like. I'll answer this with complete honesty. I'm really into your music, which is why you're here. But I'm the kind of guy that's into the sort of music that you do that much that I wanted to invite you on to the internet to talk about it. So, yeah.
It's interesting because I am, associated with WWE.
Mm-hmm.
Um, people who don't know me, and I get introduced, and it's like, what do you do? Oh, I did this. They immediately assume that I'm a metal guy,
Yeah.
and I did so little metal music while I was there.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because I'm really not a metal guy. It
This is really high up on my list of questions, so I like that you've offered that you've offered that up
Yeah.
unsolicited. But we were going to get to that, yeah. Well, I mean, the way I was going to put it to you was that, so I got into WWF January 2000, right? So a lot of people my age, yeah, that'll be true for a lot of people my age, and there
Yeah.
was maybe more rock and metal in WWF, arguably, than you were responsible for, I suppose, in terms of, like, Fear Factory. You can see on the wall behind me here. I remember that a couple of their songs were featured in VT packages on some of the shows, and then some of the themes definitely leaned in that direction. But I always thought that there was such a rock and metal presence in WWF at the time that it was kind of like a gateway for a lot of us, because I don't think I would have been a dyed in the wood metal fan at that
I
stage
agree with
yet,
that.
but
Yeah, I agree with that. It was sort of a segue into or making at least the softer side of metal more accessible to a much broader audience than had even been aware of it before.
if I was to ask you this question as a kind of umbrella question that might reframe, large portions of what's to follow, were you generally, in your time working for that company, were you directed in terms of musical direction? Were you given instructions in terms of we need this sort of sound for this type of guy? Can you do it?
No,
No.
I know we're sorry to cut you off, but I know where you're going with this. No, and it's just a clear no.
Yeah.
I was told tidbits, and I truly mean tidbits, about the person's vibe or character.
Yeah.
And
And then just given free rein, essentially.
yeah.
That's interesting, because you said something. I watched a couple of interviews that you did recently, and you said something that was very interesting about the least amount of notice, essentially, that you ever had was something like 90 minutes. You were given about 90 minutes to get something together for somebody. And I don't know.
Not all the time, but
Yeah.
definitely. Sometimes there'd be, they would be writing the shows right up until the show went live,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes after.
Of course.
Like, they didn't even know what the final match of the night was going to be.
Yeah.
And because of that, new people would be introduced suddenly.
Mm-hmm.
Someone may change from a baby to a heel.
Yeah.
Maybe two guys suddenly are a tag team because of a story change.
Yeah.
So it's anything from a last minute, oh, can you take these two guys' themes and combine them into a theme?
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes it's a new guy, and we need something. It's obviously not going to be a finished, polished theme,
Can you can
but
you can you
something to introduce the guy.
can you recall any examples of when that happened with pieces of music that then went on to be
I don't
that
really,
stuck around?
God, Paul, I have the worst memory for these kind of things, and I don't know if it's I have a bad memory for these kind of things, or is it after writing thousands of pieces of music, is it my brain just refuses to keep them in some sort of orderly, known fashion?
I get you. Yeah. Well, something else that I wanted to ask you about was you'd said in that same interview that I watched that that you've never suffered from writer's block.
No, no, the opposite actually. It's because I'll be working on something, and I'll be at the piano, and suddenly, while working on Paul's theme,
Hmm.
I do this little ditty and say, "Oh, that's cool. I like that," and then I want to work on that. I want to pursue that.
Yeah.
So distraction and I really have to work hard on having the discipline to focus on one thing and finish it.
Hmm.
And that's been a real issue in my life post WWE because the schedules at WWE imparted a certain sort of discipline that you couldn't escape.
Yeah.
It's we need the piece of music by 6 o'clock. It's a hard deadline. There's no, oh, well, I could maybe pull it off by 8:30. No, that's not one of the available answers.
Yeah.
It's 6 o'clock. And that was a blessing in disguise for me.
Structure and discipline. You can get anything done with structure and discipline, but sometimes, yeah. Where were you when you were working for WWE? Jim, were you on the road at all, or were you based in Connecticut, or how
Early on, I was on the road, but then uh, I finally said, I remember saying to Vince one day, it's like, why, why exactly am I on the road? Shouldn't I be in the studio writing music?
Yeah.
Um, I early on it was good because I wasn't a wrestling fan. So it was probably good for me to get immersed in how the business works and spend a little time, not so much talking with the guys as much as just being around and getting a getting a sense of how how it works, how they work,
Hmm.
what's important to them, um,
That
and
was,
that was
yeah.
valuable.
That was something I thought about. Was it a case that you had to? I mean, if you're given a tight deadline, so all of a sudden you need to get a song ready for TV tonight, like you said, a tag team's coming together, two guys are splitting up, there's a debut or whatever. Would you be expected to have a certain amount of knowledge, current affairs with regards to the wrestlers' personalities and storylines, so to help inform the piece of music that you were expected to write at in theory, short notice?
Paul, this was an eternal argument I had with my boss, who was the executive producer, Kevin Dunn,
Yes.
is he was always, Jim, you have to watch the programs.
Mm-hmm.
And I just resisted, probably first and foremost because I'm not a wrestling fan. I didn't really want to watch the programs, but I think it was the curiously one of the most valuable things is my separation from it. Um,
How so?
how can I give you an example? I don't think John Williams needed to study aliens to come up with the score for E.T.,
Yeah.
or I don't think that he needed to study the oceans to come up with the theme for Jaws.
Yeah.
It's a it's an it's being able to have an emotional reaction yourself to the material you're writing. And that was valuable for me to see a new guy and to approach him as a new guy.
Yeah.
And what what how do how am I going to paint this guy emotionally? Because it is, I always approached it as nothing but a movie score to these individual guys. Like each of these guys is their own little film.
Yeah.
They're the Harrison Ford or Brad Pitt of that film. And I've got to do the main theme to that film that makes you think of that film when you hear it.
That's a fascinating insight, especially when you consider how inextricable those pieces of music are from how internationally recognizable those performers are. That
Something has been lost recently, which is a mystery to me.
um, is that something you want to talk about? Would that be, was there any catharsis in that for you? Is it something that you can
Oh,
talk about, or
it's not cathartic, and it's not something that oh, what a scoop. Jim is trashing the way things are now. But I've been pretty vocal about it. It just sounds like noise to me, and all the themes just sound generic. It used to be, whether it was my music or a Jimmy Hart theme,
mm-hmm.
um, or an outside band thing.
Yeah,
Uh, you used to be able to be making dinner in the kitchen
yeah,
with the TV in the other room, and you'd know who was coming out. You
yeah.
could almost follow the program from the other room. Now, I just don't think it's like that at all. And for some reason, the powers that be have forgotten their roots or something of how powerful music is in creating stars. And I further believe that's why they're not creating either WWE or AEW. They're not creating big stars anymore. There are no new Steve Austins. There are no Rocks around now.
Yeah.
And it's because everyone's sort of in this layer of generic.
I suppose
And
what
I don't understand it.
I don't understand it, and I mean, you could spend so much time trying to figure it out, and it would drive you nuts. But there's a lowest common denominator factor to it, that if they find something that works and then stick with that. But to your point, like
I think that's a great and valid point, and I think that happens to a lot of corporations. They find what works. They're making a lot of money,
yeah,
and oh, well, we must be doing it right, so don't change anything.
but it's almost like the attitude is risk averse, but there's nothing risky about trying to be better, you know?
Yeah, well, I give credit there to Vince because he was always trying to push the envelope forward,
That,
and sometimes he pushed it places that I certainly didn't agree with, um, but at least the guy was embracing progress and change, and how can we make the product even better
yeah,
and than it was yesterday, and that was um, that was a compatibility that he and I really had, because I always wanted to try different things and make the music better. I hated when I was given a directive to uh, do stupid stuff like a theme with toilet flushes or something like that. It's like that's not going to sell the character.
yeah,
It's a maybe it's an interesting joke one night, like
yeah,
someone stole his theme and slipped in this other tape.
yeah,
Um, but and that was a bone of contention for me early on when heels first started getting themes. Is they didn't get good music; they got gimmicky music, because to communicate they're a heel,
yeah.
you're supposed to hate them.
You can't like
It's
anything
like,
about them,
well,
yeah.
in movies, again, I go back to movies. Generally, it is the bad guy who gets the most impressive theme.
What's the most famous piece of music from Star Wars? It's the Imperial March, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and you, it's a great piece of music, uh, and he's the bad guy.
yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think about so there was a time, right? So to put it into context, I followed wrestling pretty closely for about 5 years and went away for a while, came back, went away, came back. But I was always paying attention to the music, strangely enough. And I was always paying attention to what people were saying online about backstage politics, because to an extent, that's more interesting sometimes than what's been shown on TV. But something I've always been very interested in is at least with the WWE, the apparent, I'm trying to think of what the best way to say this is. a lot of your best pieces of music or pieces that you did that I really like are uh, ethnically, again, lowest common denominator is not the right thing, but it's almost like you're told um, the African American performers, their music kind of has to sound like this, and there was a lot of homogenization of some of the sounds in their entrance themes. Or we've got a guy from the Middle East, so he has to sound Middle Eastern. We've got an Irish guy, Finley, so he has to have Irish sounds and stuff.
Yeah, here's my Irish flute.
Yeah. How did you feel about? I mean, is that what you were asked to do? Were you asked to like?
Well, sometimes, Paul, it was really obvious that that just makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly when the company was first doing this, sort of expanding internationally, getting more ethnicity into the equation.
Yeah.
Um, but I remember particularly pushing back on if a black guy came in, it was hip hop. It's like, why is it hip hop?
Yeah.
Not all black people like hip hop. Um, why can't it be rock and roll? Why can't it be why can't it be opera? I mean, why can't it be wherever it wants to go? And I think there's always a reasonable argument for saying that's the best way to make this person stand out is by having their music be not what you're expecting it to be.
Yeah. I agree, and I can't think of. I wish I could think of an example. There are a couple that I've noticed over the years where there were outliers to that, where you would think historically with WWE they would have given this guy this type of theme. This guy doesn't have it, and you really notice it. But again, I mean, I've got pages and pages of notes here. That's the one thing that I didn't make a note of. But I mean, I really like some of that stuff. Like an example that I wanted to ask you about was, and again, some of your pieces would have been recycled over the years. So it was a piece of music that was used for the Iron Sheik that was also used for a guy called Tiger Ali Singh, which was a sort of Middle Eastern thing. Do you remember that piece of music?
Yeah.
So when you said about composing something like that, Jim, how do you feel about? And my listeners are going to get sick of me using this phrase, but how do you feel about ethno-musicological authenticity? Is that something you ever thought about? Did you think these have to be, these instruments fit into a sort of parameters with how this music sounds? So if I use this, I should also use this. Or was it just a case of, well, I think this music sounds like this and I'm going to try and, put something together?
I think I leaned more to the impressionism side rather than absolutely authentic.
Yeah.
But sometimes I tried to be authentic by literally finding people in that region, someone to sing the song who's from there. And I like authentic, but sometimes authentic is not the way to go. Sometimes you want just a flavor of something in there. I guess it's like cooking. Maybe you don't have to completely go down the road of a fully Moroccan dish, but maybe you can use a little bit of the most popular spices that are common in Moroccan food, something like that.
Yeah.
Where someone eats it in the States and says like, hey, is this Moroccan?
Yeah.
But it's probably not literally Moroccan.
Well, close enough for rock and roll, though.
And also at that time, that was part of what was going on is Vince was trying to expand the business internationally. So the core audience was still in the United States.
Yeah.
And to a great degree, UK and a couple of places in Europe where it was Germany was popular. So you're not directly going to a Middle Eastern audience at that point. You're really catering to an American audience. And that's why I think the impressionist thing I always felt worked best is because if it goes too far and it's too alien to people, to the audience, it can backfire on you too, where it's like, why I want to hear rock and roll or something,
You have to find some point of reference that exists in common between. Yeah. What excited you the most, Jim? What was what part of the job did you enjoy the most?
That is a very interesting question because things moved so fast. There wasn't time to really complain about anything
Or revel?
party about it
Yeah, yeah,
either. Um, because once I finished one thing, it was put the guitar down, walk to the piano
yeah.
because the next one's starting. Um, I think I really do like the challenge of can I come up with something
Mm-hmm.
um, that's important to me. So in terms of but there was no overt like, oh, today I get to do this
Yeah,
and it's my favorite thing to do.
I guess
I
because
really enjoyed uh, I love all kinds of music, so I really enjoyed, 97% of it.
this may be a question you've been asked before, but did you ever get the sense when you were working on something that it was going to take off, and that you would give it to the world and the world would take it and sort of never let go, with the likes of the Glass Smash and Austin's theme, or Triple H's theme that ended up going through the filter of Motorhead to get out into the world eventually? Did you ever think when you were working on something that, I mean, you knew the potential for the audience because you knew about the live crowds and the TV broadcast deals and all that stuff. But yeah, did you ever get a sense of, this is going to be big?
Yes. Yeah, I definitely would do things, and I would tell Kevin, it's like this is a star maker.
Yeah, yeah,
I just knew it. It's just like if you hook up it it folds in an answer to a second question that you did not ask, which is when I came up with something that I felt very strongly about, I would now get very concerned about, can this guy or girl get make it work?
yeah,
Because it's a dance.
yeah, yeah,
The 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 wrestler has to be able to dance to this music to make it truly come alive and to make it their own.
yeah.
You can't just be, and I think this also segues into what we tapped into before about these days. Uh, there's just coincidentally music playing while someone walks out to
Mm,
ring. It's not saying anything about their character or their storyline or where they came from or their ethnicity.
yeah,
Um, but it really worked when, with Austin, with Undertaker, with with Rock. I mean, go down the list. A lot of people. Um, Austin comes out. He's angry. The music feels angry.
mm-hmm.
Uh, it's it just comes together, just
Yeah.
like your Darth Vader reference.
It becomes completely. There's a total synthesis there. I've said this to friends before, but with Austin's music, you can hear his shoulders. Do you know what I mean? And that's what
Yeah,
you're saying about the dance. Like, I've always thought that exact
yeah,
same thing. He was so literally in sync in terms of timing. He was in sync with that music when he walked to the ring.
that
And
was
it,
an important thing. Is
yeah,
everybody has a tempo.
mm-hmm,
If you watch people, everybody has a tempo.
yeah,
The way they move their hands, certainly in the way they walk.
mm-hmm,
Um, and a lot of times I would think uh, that I was on the right track. And then I see them come out to it the first time on TV,
yeah,
and I can tell, no, tempo's wrong.
yeah.
Either I feel like I'm holding him back, or that the music is making him go faster than he wants to go.
And in a
And
situation like that,
so
Jim, were you in a position to go then and say, I don't think this is right? Can we try and change it?
certainly in the position of saying that,
Yeah,
I was not in the position of making the final call.
yeah,
Um, but generally, I think it was relatively obvious.
mm-hmm. Yeah, if it doesn't
You
work,
know,
it does. Yeah.
the music needs to be faster
Well, what
because
other?
he's raring to go, you
Yeah.
know, and the music is holding him back to be a much more measured, cool guy.
There's no. I don't think there's any other medium, storytelling medium, where you get the instant live feedback of professional wrestling. Because even in theater, I mean, obviously, if it stinks, the crowd are gonna let you know about it. But like in wrestling, if something's not working, you're going to get thousands of people letting you know in some way that or they'll let you know by their silence, when something doesn't work. So I'm really
Well,
interested.
yeah,
I'm
and
very
they'll really let you know by not buying tickets the
yeah.
second time.
That's it too.
And it's also that segues into I'm so surprised that more mainstream, well, I can't even say it's mainstream anymore because wrestling's mainstream, but quote professional sports aren't taking advantage of music more than they are. And I've always assumed it to be that they're considered much more team sports, and that if someone gets music, then you're pointing out that they're a star and they're different than the rest of the team.
Yeah.
But it's like, come on, are you kidding me? That's that's real life.
Yeah.
It's Tom Brady is different than the rest of the team.
Yeah.
He's the greatest quarterback who's ever lived, and that doesn't mean that you're saying the rest of the team are amateurs and he's the only pro around.
Yeah.
It's he's responsible for a lot of the other people on the team making a lot of money and making a great living and having Super Bowl rings. And so I think a guy like that, give him some music. I mean, celebrate that he's on your team.
It all feeds into the whole the creation of stars as well. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And how important it is to have those positions as
Exactly.
for people to look up to and to chase and that sort of thing as well. Coming back to the sort of the idea of revising your music. I mean, let's go with Austin. Austin's a brilliant example. The first version of the Stone Cold Steve Austin theme, Jim, man, that is one of my favorite things ever. The really early bass heavy version, and there's no hi-hat at the start of it. It kind of just starts with the kick drum and the snare, and it's really flat, dead.
These are things that always kill me.
Yeah.
Because I find that so often fans know my music much better than I do, because I'll get like an email saying like, oh, you put that hi-hat in the third verse and it just sounded great. And I'm like, I don't think there's a hi-hat in the third verse. And then sure enough, I'll go back to some version and there's a hi-hat in the third verse.
Yeah. It never occurred to me that I could have just emailed you my question about Scotty Too Hottie, which is coming up. I'm saving that one for later, but until I feel like I've earned it. But yeah, I'm sorry, like I can't help nerding out about this stuff, but that first version of the Stone Cold theme is brilliant, and it's ignorant. It's ignorant and it's arrogant. But then as Austin becomes a bigger star, that piece of music needs reworked. It needs to be a little bit more accessible because it is a heel theme. Stone Cold Steve Austin was doing despicable things, going to Brian Pillman's house and all kinds of stuff. But he becomes a bigger star and the theme has to be revised. And then he goes away for a bit and he comes back and Disturbed gets involved. So Disturbed are now covering your music, which is something I want to get to as well. And then that changes after a while, and there's a newer, there's a kind of faster version of it that came in where it was slightly rearranged. So it came out, and then the chorus was this kind of wow, wow, wow. Do you remember that?
No.
Oh man, like a certain very very short period he used it for. But
you mean in that
no. This is a later version of the theme. This is about 2000, 2001. But when he would hit the ropes, I remember he talked to you on his podcast about this years ago. When he hit the ropes, he made sure to hit the ropes with this weird kind of guitar feedback effect. But then there was a slower version of that, and then eventually the original theme came back. But this is the question, very long-winded way of asking it. Do you feel, or did you ever feel that as a composer a piece of work is never finished?
Yes.
Yeah.
Something this loops back to my talking about having completing things is challenging for me
Yeah.
because I never feel they're completed. Even when I get something that I'm really happy with, I listen to it a week later and I go like, ugh,
Yeah.
I could do that guitar part so much better. Or I should get a guitar player who's much better than me to do it.
Yeah.
Or it should be a piano. Or how cool would it be to just stop here and in the middle of it and do a little orchestral choir thing for 4 measures and then boom,
Yeah.
kick them in the ass again at that point. So, uh, and it's happening now in my life even more so when I'm writing all kinds of music, a lot of orchestral music, and I finish it and then it's not finished, and
Yeah.
I think things. But that is a skill set that I'm trying to work on in my life that I don't have. I'm a complete failure at it, is that ability to let go of things, to say like, okay, I created this song in this moment in my life with these things going on that probably all contributed much more
Yeah.
than I really realize, and move on to the next story about some experience. That's another thing is I would write themes and things now, but it's easier to see more in context of WWE and themes where I feel like I'm writing Paul's theme.
Yeah.
It's all about, I'm looking at video clips of you, any information I can get about you.
And feel free to do that, Jim.
anything.
If you feel compelled to do that, you can do that. That's
Okay.
no problem with me. The False Face doesn't have any intro music yet,
Yeah.
so
How you were raised,
yeah.
what your life experience has been, just clues to how do I do something musical that taps into all that. So my point is, my feelings all you. And then like a year later,
Yeah.
I'll be listening to it, particularly if it's a song with lyrics, and it will be absolutely right on the money, autobiographical about what was happening in my life then.
Yeah. That's really interesting.
It will be almost not in the least about you.
Yeah. And you don't realize it at the time. You have no idea that that's what's coming out.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
No, it's not even, I don't have any idea. I'm explicitly trying to make it about you.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the center of my universe, is making it about you. I'm trying to tell your story. And maybe that's no, it is the gift that I've never understood, is that's probably why my music has been as impactful as it has been, is because somehow it's true, because it's finding some part of me that is this character that I can write from my heart.
Yeah.
About whatever it is, being angry or being arrogant or being happy or being sad, or being a winner, being a loser.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting. I mean, I think when you see that, when you can recognize that in art and in movies, maybe it's easier to recognize. But when you find truth, when you find something that there's two guys reading a script there in front of a camera that's been lit by a professional, it's been recorded by a sound professional under the tutelage of a director who's working to a producer for a studio, right?
Yeah,
That's
with all sorts of people,
all of that stuff. But you see something and you're like, but that's a truth. It may not be a universal truth, but they have managed to take something from essentially maybe one person's brain and put it into your brain, or put it into your heart if you want to be kind of trite about it. But yeah. I know exactly what you're referring to there. I completely get that, and that's really, really interesting to hear you say that.
Yeah, it's important. I think it's and now that I'm not having to cater to other people's whims and I can do whatever the hell I want.
Yeah.
It's something I really try to do, is to make sure, again, particularly in a lyric scenario, to make sure it feels true, that there's real truth to it. and
Yeah.
and also with instrumental pieces that I want people to feel what I feel.
Yeah.
I also, when I compose, if I don't like it, I just can never get myself past, why should anybody else like this? I
Yeah.
mean, if I don't like it. So I I keep composing until I like it when I was doing themes.
Yeah.
Even if it's even if it's a direction I've been given that I don't particularly like.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, how can I keep pounding away until I find something that satisfies the directive, but still feels true to me uh, and that I like, that I enjoy.
Yeah.
Because how is this guy going to be inspired when he comes out into an arena if I don't like it? Why the hell should he like it? I mean, I'm sure it's possible,
Yeah.
but it seems to your point, truth wins the day because
Um,
there's something in human beings that recognizes truth.
yeah.
Like, and just like I think most people are much more cognizant of, I recognize bullshit when I hear it,
Yeah.
like on TV or something, a newscaster or a politician or something is like, that guy's lying.
Yeah.
Um, this is, this is spin 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's some gene we have in our DNA strand that just recognizes that.
It's the same skill. The recognition of truth is the same skill. It's just it's exercised less often because how often do we see truth?
Yes, it's that negativity bias is
Yeah.
extraordinary in human beings. It's like and also negativity bias, I think, is very powerful because it makes people feel superior. If I can recognize that you're a liar,
Yeah.
it makes me feel like, well, I'm not a liar.
Yeah. 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 I get you. I recognize that, unfortunately. Do you think you ever fell short of that mark in terms of?
Oh God, I've fallen short a million times.
Yeah. Did you ever have any of the guys or any of the women coming to you weren't happy with what you'd done for them? You don't have to name names. I'm not fishing for scoops again, but
I have had very little interaction with the talent.
interesting.
Yeah, that was normally, and that was absolutely by choice because it always ended badly, basically. Because if they want to be involved in what their music is,
Yeah.
it's extraordinary how few wrestlers really understand that part of the business. This is not about getting a piece of music that is similar to what you like to listen to in the car
Yeah.
when you're driving around. This is, Steven Spielberg is not using music for movie scores that he happens to listen to when he's having a glass of wine with his wife on Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
It's what's right for the story and telling that story and your character. And so if I had to deal with talent, I would inevitably hear either two lanes. One is, well, I love Metallica.
Yeah.
So I'd like it to be kind of a Metallica vibe.
Uh-huh.
Or it's, I love Stone Cold's music. I love that whole attitude. And of course, the first thing I want to say is, well, there's only one problem with that, is you're not Steve Austin.
Yeah.
And, part of that magic is Steve.
Yeah, of course.
He dances with that music perfectly. And so it comes together.
Andrew Stanton, he was talking about Wally so he directed Wally. Do you remember the Pixar film? It came out about 2008, and he said that sometimes it's the responsibility of a creator to know what the audience wants even when they don't know that they want it themselves. And I think that's kind of
Boy,
what you're talking about there,
absolutely.
without putting that on you, you know. But
No,
yeah,
you
you
can
know,
put that right on me. I love that.
yeah,
Yeah, I
that
completely agree with that.
there must be something to be said too, Jim. Though, for like, I'll give you an example here again with the nerd trivia hat on. I only found this out today, but
That's all right.
there's a question in it anyway.
I like nerds. Nerds are good.
Yeah, we are good.
That
Yeah,
famous thing, uh, uh, Bill Gates,
yeah,
Microsoft guy, is giving a speech to a college graduation, uh, and went through this whole litany of things to do if you'd like to be successful. And he ended with, "Be nice to nerds. You're probably going to be working for one day."
yeah, I like it.
And
Um,
it's true.
well, with deference to Bill Gates, I put this to you. I found out today that Brock Lesnar's theme um, was originally used maybe about 5 or 6 months before he debuted for kind of what you were saying earlier. It was for one of the XFL teams, the Chicago Enforcers, I think,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
walkout music. So the the surface level question here is, Jim, did you have a repository of songs that you know that you may be able to use at some stage, or did you write that music for the Chicago Enforcers? That's one question. The second part is, how do you feel about my suggestion that you wrote that piece of music for one thing, but it ended up becoming indelibly inseparable from another thing that to this day is still associated with that performer? Because Brock's theme is up there with Austin's theme in terms of you hear it, you see him, or you see him and you hear it. So, did you write that for the XFL? And how do you feel about the suggestion that even though you did write it for that, it had to
Yeah.
get to Brock Lesnar?
I wrote it for the XFL.
Okay.
Um, and I'll ask you a question.
Yeah.
When you hear the song Real American, who do you think of?
Cyndi Lauper. No, Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, not written for Hulk Hogan. It was for a tag team. I've forgotten the name of the tag team.
I'll edit it in here now so it looks like I knew that already, but no, I didn't know that. That's brilliant trivia. You've one upped me, I think, but yeah.
And sometimes the stars align. Sometimes I don't know. Maybe going back to truth, that um, music finds its rightful home, because that is perfect for Brock.
It is, yeah.
And and the whole XFL thing was awkward at best. I mean, I get what Vince was trying to do, and he had a much bigger impact on the world of professional football than he, I think, ever thought he was going to have, in that the vast majority of innovations that came to pass in XFL in terms of camera coverage, the 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 cameras flying above the stadium, and
Yeah.
much more character development, learning much more about these people
Yeah.
doing this. Uh, that is the NFL playback book now. That's exactly what they do. All those things is what they do. So, but yeah, I wrote themes for all those teams, and it was a great effort, but it just never sort of clicked. Um, and when Brock showed up, it isn't like I suggested that. It's just like suddenly that music showed up for Brock.
He did. He had a different theme for maybe about a month and a half, I think, which was a similarly heavy, slow thing. And I think, coming back to your point earlier about tempo, the subsequent thing, which I think at the time, and names are funny with these things, Jim, because like, so I've got this here. I've got WWF Music Volume 4. The names that are on the songs have on this are not the same as what they have on Spotify, because these things change. But Brock's theme originally was called The Next Big Thing, and you know, like 25 years later, he's not the next big thing anymore, but the piece of music still exists. So in wrestling, names don't matter.
Yeah, but you never know.
Yeah,
he might come back around and be the new next big thing.
The next big thing.
I don't know, that title thing that that was difficult transition because early on, of course, we would just call it Brock Lesnar's theme.
Yeah.
But we had to stop doing that because of the way copyrights and the whole world of publishing works.
Mm-hmm.
You could come out with an album of covers.
Yeah.
And there were you couldn't necessarily come out and call something Brock Lesnar's theme on your CD because that would be trademark infringement.
Okay. On the name Brock Lesnar, or
yeah, and because Vince didn't want to go around the world suing every kid who came out with a CD of covers.
Yeah.
We started titling everything because if you did an album of Brock Lesnar's theme, The Rock's theme,
yeah,
it doesn't matter if the Rock theme is not even a cover of the Rock's theme. Maybe it's a totally different piece of music.
Mm-hmm.
But people could, there's brand confusion in situations like that where people think, oh, this is a WWE endorsed album.
Yes.
And then it becomes much more difficult to have it taken down or get it out of the marketplace. So we just started titling everything, like regular songs, trying to find
something that
a traditional title for it that somehow caught the mood.
Yeah.
But it's hard to do that. I found that titling things was much more difficult than writing the music.
Yeah, because the music is supposed to be either a distillation of or a projection of the character. The title then has to be a distillation of the distillation. So you're trying to find something that, you call Austin's theme Glass Smashes or something like that.
Absolutely. And, well said. It's like the music is capturing the emotion of something. And now the title has to describe in words that emotion.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult to describe emotion. Ask any author.
Of course, yeah. And I mean, Stephen King always said that you can't have, you can't use, what is it, adjectives in your writing. Because Stephen King always advocated for not using adjectives to describe how people were feeling. You could only do it through their actions had to describe. You couldn't say, and he felt sad. Do you know what I mean? He had to so he hung his head or whatever it was. But yeah, it's hard to do.
It's much more powerful to describe a guy sitting alone in a dark room with a drink.
Yeah,
the image and the emotion that evokes, rather than say Joe was really sad after the loss of his wife. Which makes it almost seem like he couldn't get a reservation at the restaurant he wanted. It doesn't feel that sad.
I'm going to bring us crashing back down to earth with another super nerdy question, and I've got to be careful about this. So, Jim, this is the thing that I've wondered about the longest. And the first question I have to ask is, broadly speaking, I think I know what songs you're responsible for the most part. Like, I know some of the older stuff that was Jimmy Hart music. I know most of your stuff. Within a certain period, like probably 95% of the themes would have been Jim Johnston work. And then there was probably about maybe 5% of like library music, which is something I want to ask you about as well. But do you did Scotty 2 Hotty's music, the famously that goes banging it, banging it, banging it, banging it. Yeah, okay. So before playing any samples, because you said earlier about the memory and stuff, do you remember the samples in that song? Do you remember filling that song with samples?
Where the samples came from?
Yeah. Not necessarily do you remember where they came from, but yeah, you remember them being like they're a key component of the structure of that song, right?
Yes, but I never did the sampling thing where I sampled it off of someone's record. Yeah. The only time I used samples were, you buy sample CDs from a company, and like buying sound effects.
Right. So you didn't put that together with these, I suppose what you'd call them, references or nods to things that you were fond of or anything like that?
Oh, zero.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So I'll tell you the reason I'm asking. So
I didn't do that for two reasons. One, as a corporation, that was legally way off the table.
Okay, yeah.
And and it was just way off the table for me because I am not admirer of that. I don't like. I don't know. Maybe if you contact the person and I it's just sort of half-ass stealing to me. I mean, what even if someone was very courteous and called me up and said like, "Hey, I'm doing a thing. Do you mind if I use the Undertaker bell?"
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I do. That's
it depends what
come up with your own bell.
Yeah. Well, so I'm the two things that.
And one last point, just to
yes,
finish
of course,
that thought.
Of course, yeah.
So, and the reason that I'm most against it is it drives me absolutely insane, particularly in the hip hop world, where people would just essentially steal the track of a song, and just rap over it, and
without anything transformative done to it.
Yeah, I mean, who? I don't. Was it Jay-Z who did Hard Knock Life?
Yes, I think
from the Broadway St. Annie.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I hope that they gave 95% of the royalties away to the writer of Annie, but it's I don't know. I feel like the creative process, come up with your own stuff.
Well, so the thing about this is that this isn't even musical, but there are two things in that song that I have come across in the wild in the years since owning a copy of WWF. I think it was the Music Volume 5 that one was on. So I'm watching Godzilla a couple of years ago, and about the original 1954 Godzilla, and about 8 minutes into that film, there's a guy points out to the ocean at Godzilla, and he lets out he says something in Japanese, and that's on that Scotty 2 Hotty piece, and I was like, that's where that came from. And I A-B'd it to make sure it wasn't just similar, and I was like, no, that's exactly where that came from. But Godzilla is not an obscure film. Later in the song, it stops.
I'll have to listen to this because I have no clue.
Right, hang on. I'm gonna see if I can play this. So you first of all, you tell me if you can hear it. But I did run afoul of a little copyright thing on YouTube the other day, and I know that obviously WWE would be pretty litigious, so I don't want to risk anything. But for your benefit, right? Hopefully this is not too loud. Can you hear this?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, how do I get around? Tell you what I'll do. I'll strip the audio out whenever we get to the edit. Yeah, that's fine. I can't believe I'm subjecting you to this, Jim. By the way, I'm so sorry.
I haven't heard this in a long time.
It's very unmusical, I think, this song. There's not a pile of melody in it, really,
Yeah.
There's a little thing in there, some sort of synthesizer thing, so
good beat.
It's brilliant. The song is excellent. All right, so here's the first one. So that 8 minutes and 30 seconds into Godzilla.
Yeah, it's just something off of.
And that's the other one. So that's Peter Cushing, right? This is as nerdy as it gets, False Face viewers. So Peter Cushing played Grand Moff Tarkin in Star Wars, and he was in a bunch of Hammer horror films, and he's a British acting legend. So see, this is brilliant. I thought I'm going to ask Jim Johnston about this, and your response was, "Who's Peter Cushing?" So I'm way off base.
I have never lifted something off somebody else's record.
So you just got that from a selection of. That's the mystery solved. It just. You didn't even know.
Now maybe they lifted, but when you buy the CD, they claim that everything here is royalty free. It's cleared. And
so that's from a really obscure French film called. I was boring my wife about this morning. It's called Tender Dracula, in which Peter Cushing plays an actor, I believe, who believes that he is a vampire, but it's calling back to his earlier career at that stage. But
I definitely am not aware of that movie.
Not aware of Tender Dracula. No, I mean It's just like I'm watching this film and I hear him say that, and like I'm like a dog. I'm just like, Scotty 2 Hotty, what? So yeah.
A slightly related tangent I'll give you is
yes.
I've had many times over the years people write me a letter or an email and say, "Hey, were you inspired by did or, did trying to think of a real world example, but I can't. But you know, did was Joe's theme inspired by Bruce Hornsby's
Yeah.
piano part on this song?
Yeah.
And that's a bad thing because I'm a big Bruce Hornsby fan, but inspired by someone I've never heard of.
Yeah.
Okay. So I can immediately answer no because I've never heard of the band,
Yeah.
for starters. And then, but sometimes I'm really curious to go and listen to that song to see if, is it really similar? Because
Yeah.
I think it's completely possible to write things that have been written before. I mean, there aren't that many notes.
That's true.
And it's always striking how it hits me as utterly dissimilar.
That's interesting. Gangrel said on a podcast earlier this year, I think, that he thought that your work on his theme might have been directly inspired by a piece of music. I'm wondering, had he put that to you at all, or has he just drawn that connection himself?
No,
because Jim Austin famously spoke about how he brought you Evil Empire by Rage Against the Machine for his theme, and was it, I think, Bulls and Parade that he suggested, not like rip this off, but he said like this song has the energy that I want, and that you transformed that into what became the basis of his theme. So I mean, that's definitely an example of a time when
I'm not sure that ever happened.
Oh no, don't come on. He said that to you on his show. That must have been about 10 or 15 years ago now. But see, this is the problem. I always say to people that I have people at a disadvantage when they come on the show, because obviously I do research and I'm leveling accusations at people who are perfectly entitled to say.
I don't think it's an accusation.
Yeah,
it's that I just don't. The creation of that theme happened way before I ever met Steve, because it started with his promos.
Yeah,
there were a series of promos when they transitioned him from ringmaster.
Yes,
and these two producers, friends of mine, David Sahadi and Chris Chambers, who did some unbelievably creative stuff. They had this idea for a series of things that they shot up in this really beat up, dark, destroyed warehouse.
I remember.
Upstate Connecticut.
I remember that footage.
And they were almost poetic with, I remember one final line was Steve saying something like, "You want forgiveness? Go to church."
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And at the time, I saw the vibe of the promos.
Yeah, yeah.
And what I came up with, the first version of Steve's theme, was a score for those promos.
Yeah.
Really. Because it needed I did sort of orchestral type stuff for the 90% of the promo.
Yeah.
And then each one of them had a tagline, like you want forgiveness, go to church.
Yeah.
And then boom, da-da, da-da, da-da. It needed something that kind of kicked you in the ass. And that's when I came up with that. So
I'll take that. No, I've got a good story out of it.
Steve may have come to me later, either directly or indirectly, and said, like, this is the energy I want. But so maybe he didn't like the first version or something.
Steve, if you're watching this, let us know.
Yeah, Steve, you pain in the ass. Oh my God.
When did the glass
trying to bury me? Thanks, Steve.
When did the glass come in? That was that there, do you think, from the first time that I should know this?
I think it was there in those promos.
Yeah, yeah. Because you've got a guitar solo on there as well. It sounds like a siren. Sounds like a police car siren. But I'm nearly sure you're playing that on guitar, aren't you? Like this wailing. It's very low in the mix, but it's.
You know better than me.
Yeah,
No,
you're the second. You're the second guest.
absolutely no idea.
The second guest who said that to me in
Yeah.
a week. Jim, how are you? You fixed for time? Do you have time for a couple more questions?
Okay.
If I could,
Yeah,
yeah.
sure. Absolutely. Keep
Uh,
rolling.
I wanted to ask about. I don't think I can reach it. I can reach it. What are the chances? I have here a copy of Typo Negative's 2003 album "Life Is Killing Me," and on the bonus CD for this, there's a recording here called "Blood." No, got that wrong. It's "Out of the Fire" brackets Kane's theme. Do you recall anything about any involvement in Typo Negative for perhaps doing a version of Kane's theme that never came off? Because that, I know for a fact, that was never used. And it has some
I
of
think
the
so.
yeah.
We went through a period where I had some relationships with big labels in New York City, and we would do a trade-off, sort of promotional trade-off of uh, you have upcoming bands, obviously, who need promotion, and a lot of those bands, the WWE audience is their audience,
Yeah.
and it's kind of a perfect match to use one of their songs, and then they would record one of our themes in their style.
Yeah.
And sometimes it was just, we'll do a, we'll use one of your band's songs for something, for promotion for a pay-per-view or something.
Yeah.
I remember, sorry guys, in Typo Negative, I remember the name of the band, but I don't remember what we did. Now, the Kane thing sounds a little familiar, but
I'm wondering, are you you are credited? You're credited here, Jim, for composition on it. So they must have, they must have used some part of, because I know because Kane's theme did go from your organ version of Kane's theme then to a version that was recorded by a band that he basically used for most of the rest of his career. So I guess what Typo Negative did maybe wasn't up to snuff. But I was wondering about that.
That really was a problem when you deal with an outside band and a label, and you're trying to keep things positive.
Yeah.
And sorry, a little bit of a slur. Sort of a lot of those up and coming bands, they thought they were great, and they weren't always great.
Yeah.
And oftentimes what they would submit was either, not what we were really looking for. And it was a little uncomfortable when that happened, because, I want to see them succeed. I liked that whole plan we had going, because I loved, a lot of these people were a great bunch of kids trying to make it in the music industry, and they're taking themselves very seriously.
Yeah.
Trying to do it right. And so I love to see them succeed. And I'd love to see what happened when they would have a song on WWE. And I would tell the labels, is like, if this works out, you're not going to believe, you're going to see this band's website absolutely light up.
Yeah.
Like within an hour. And they go, like, well, I don't know, that's hard to make happen. I said, it'll happen. So you should be prepared for it. And it happened a lot. So it was great to see these bands get a shot from the company.
Yeah, and in the interest of journalistic integrity, if that's the right word, Typo Negative probably don't fall into that category. Typo Negative, I think by the time that they would have worked with you guys, would have had maybe a couple of platinum albums under their belt, so they were an established group, But I know what you're talking about with regards to the CDs that WWF put out, where you would have a roster of bands and be about half established acts. Like Run DMC famously did the DX theme, but then there'd be other acts on there that even to this day, maybe some of them they didn't stick around and become household names, but it was a great opportunity for them. How did you feel about your work being covered by in the really high profile situations? Obviously Disturbed working with Austin's theme, and the Motorhead version of Triple H's theme is one of the all-time greats. I mean, did you ever meet any of those artists? Is that the kind of thing where you would have had any involvement? Did you still produce that music in terms of
Oh yeah, I worked with
engineering wise? Yeah.
Motorhead. They were great, and I was sort of nervous going in, particularly Lemmy had a pretty solid reputation.
Yeah.
Uh, and when I was with him, couldn't possibly have been more of a gentleman.
Yeah.
He wasn't crazy, he wasn't drunk out of his mind, he wasn't acting weird, and the band was very responsible and just wanted to do a good job.
Yeah.
And they did a great job. They did three of my songs, so
well,
which
yes,
was exciting.
brilliant. It's just what I wanted to ask. They did the Evolution theme,
Yeah,
and then there was another Triple H theme, wasn't it?
yes.
So yeah, you would have written
King of Kings.
King of Kings. Did
Yeah.
you write those two later pieces? Because obviously Triple H's theme existed before Motorhead got involved. Did you write the later two pieces for Motorhead, with Motorhead in mind?
No,
No.
no. Wait a second. Hold that.
Yeah.
I wonder if I did write either of them. Um, I honestly don't remember because I remember now making uh, demos of the song and singing them with my best
Did
Lemmy
your
voice.
best Lemmy? Yeah. Look, I mean, do you have bunches of versions of things? And I mean,
Oh my God.
are you an archivist in that sense, Jim?
Am I what?
Like an archivist in terms of your own music, and like I kind of alluded to earlier, there's so many different versions of example of for example, Steve Austin's theme or the Undertaker's theme. Do you have all these? I mean, do you still have the sort of master recordings of all of that stuff?
Absolutely. I've got, and all they right down to the original, things. Um, like just the very first idea put into a little handheld tape recorder,
Yes,
which I do all the time because you'll forget them otherwise.
of course. How does it start for you? I know you said in that interview I watched previously, and you mentioned to me earlier too about the tempo, but in terms of a musical idea, so if you come up with a melody, do you have to get to a guitar? Do you have to get to a piano? Or I mean, if you don't have access to those, are you just going to be humming it into a tape recorder? Or how do you capture that first, when it first comes to you?
Uh, Whatever I can that will give me a clue to what it was. It could be a lyric idea. Going back to the very original question, it's, when a band like that, pretty legendary, is playing your music, it's incredibly flattering and exciting.
Yeah. Did you ever see them play your stuff live? They did it at a few shows, I know.
No,
No.
no.
Yeah, because you weren't big on attending. You didn't go to any of the shows as a.
I was, the job was 24/7, 365. It really was.
Yeah.
Um,
In terms of like,
I work
you just hold up in a studio, because I suppose obviously it takes a long time to record and then engineer and mix and all that stuff. But yeah, it would have been a full beyond a full working week for you. You just at it all the time.
Yeah, but remember that I don't work the way most people work because of the uh, time constraints that happened. I was doing all the processes simultaneously.
Yeah.
So when I just have if I'm just starting with a drum and a bass guitar track, just doing a foundational thing,
Mm-hmm.
I'm mixing that as before I move on to guitars. So it sounds pretty close to where I want it to be.
Yeah.
And um, I think that also helped because a lot of my stuff comes off feeling a little bit more live because I'm putting it together more the way a band would play
Yeah.
rather than the recording studio way of microscopic editing of each part and okay, we're gonna punch in these two measures and
Uh huh.
I didn't do that all that much. But then again, I'm a pretty, in the scheme of the world, I'm a horrible mixer because I never mixed. I didn't do these classic things like, oh, well, the first day we're going to get drum sounds.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's like, no, in the first minute, I'm going to get a drum sound.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, we're done with that part. Now I'm going to get a bass sound in the second minute. And it was much more about concentrating on the composition and the creation of the thing. So uh, if you analytically look at my music from a mix standpoint, that will be, I'm sure, disappointing, sort of. But
Um,
there's a magic to that, and one of my favorite stories is Bruce Springsteen. He was first dealing with a label, and the band had already recorded "Born to Run,"
mhm.
and just in a local studio there in New Jersey, where they were from, and they were really happy with it. And the band, I mean the label, said, "Okay, well we got to remix this thing,"
Mhm.
which they did, and they played it for the band, and the band didn't like it at all. And the labels were used to being gods at that point.
Of course.
Um, but apparently, Bruce, to his credit, said, "No, either we release our version or we don't release it." And their versions really, you listen to that song from a traditional standpoint, it's not a great mix. It really sounds much more like a true recording of a band playing that song.
Hmm.
Um, and but that's what the song is about. It's about chaos, and it's not about order and perfection.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to get something done
Yeah.
sort of quick and dirty. And I suppose you're not working conditions isn't the right phrase, but you're working, the sphere you were in. You would have been working to tight deadlines, which would have probably, if not influenced, it would have enforced how you were creating to an extent. Did you play everything, Jim?
Yeah, early on, particularly, I played everything, unless I had unless I needed an oboe part.
Yes. Uh huh.
But even early on, sampling was starting to happen, and sometimes I could get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly later on, but uh, yeah, I play a lot of instruments, not well, but I play a lot of instruments because I would learn to play it out of necessity. It's like I want a flute part. Well,
Yes.
I'll get a flute and
And
I'll learn to play
learn the
that
part.
part.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So if you want me to play a different part, we're screwed because I don't know how to play that part.
How do you
But
how do you feel about the idea of simplicity in music? Because again, boring my poor wife about this, but I have to run my ideas past somebody before I get speaking to guests. But I was saying to her about how you remember the Acolytes, Farouk and Bradshaw, and the Acolytes theme was just da da na da na da na na na. That's the riff. Two chords, Jim. Two dudes, two chords, and I was like, but that's it. That communicates it perfectly. And then over the top of that, you've got this wailing again. It's like basically a single guitar note. I think it's on the whammy bar, if that's what it's called. But it's very very basic. But it is those two guys, in essence. But very 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 simplistic and very satisfying. And then at the other end of the scale, you've got the Gold Dust piece, which is so
mm,
busy and has such a beautiful lilt to it. And if you don't mind a compliment, I think that's your
thank you.
masterpiece. With all due respect to the Undertaker theme, that Gold Dust thing is chills even to this day. I love that so much. But um it's not an accusation, but would you have sometimes thought, yeah, I can put less maybe compositional input into this and still get something great out of it, if you know what I mean, with the likes of that Acolyte theme or the Headbangers theme, which again similarly I think is basically two chords kind of played like surf music almost, and then with a punk beat.
Mm.
Again is very very simplistic. Or
No, if you're asking if I intentionally went for simple,
mm,
uh, absolutely, less is more. Simple is much more powerful. And what I was playing was Austin's theme. And instead of
oh yeah,
Austin's theme, if I had played you know,
Yeah.
it's like, oh my God, stop,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
But if it's just da 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 da, it's two notes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly.
Uh,
And one of the most famous pieces of music
and
ever,
it's
sort of, and yeah.
yeah. So it's less is more, particularly when I'm working on orchestral stuff, which I'm doing a lot these days, sort of soundtrack orchestral type things. Um, I'll do my first pass, but most of the time I'm taking stuff out, taking notes out,
Mm-hmm.
because it just is so much more beautiful when they're well chosen, less well chosen notes rather than lots of notes.
Yeah.
It's my big gripe against, uh, are there standouts in the classical music world? Of course there are.
Mm-hmm.
They're just iconic pieces. But I would argue that those iconic pieces have those moments where there's a discernible melody that you can really pick up on and remember. Da 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 da,
Yeah.
da 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 da, and that they tend to be fairly simple. And then in the broader scope, uh, classical music is following a sort of formulaic road where there's just tons of like,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh my God, it's too much. There's no is there a melody in my future here? What is there something that is going to stop and focus and make me feel something?
Yeah, it doesn't have the power to
And
move you.
that's what music is for
Yeah.
me. And um, I'm not a fan of hip hop because it all sounds the same. Lyrically, it's all the same story, or 90% of it. And I don't understand why guys don't break the pattern a little bit.
The truth of it is, Jim, is probably out there, but it's not the cream that rises to the top in the music industry. It's what people already like and what they're
Yes,
desensitized
and
to,
it's also
and
that's an important point about today's music. It's not great music and talent that's rising to the top. It's people who are great PR people
yeah.
that selling themselves.
It is. It's the presentation of homogenized music, but attached to marketable stars again.
Yeah,
Uh,
and marketable for many reasons that have nothing to do with what their alleged reason for being popular is.
what kind of stuff are you into, Jim? What do you listen? What did you listen to? When you were getting into music, and what are you into now?
When I was a little kid and listening just to popular music, the Beatles and
Mm-hmm.
sort of the usual suspects.
Yeah.
And no, well, some unusual suspects, lesser known people for some reason inspired me, but it humorously later on, when I started having some success as a composer, friends would somewhat naturally ask me like, "Hey, what's good these days? What are you listening to?"
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'm listening to nothing. I'm listening to the stuff I'm working on.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm listening to rough mixes in my car when I'm driving around.
Yeah.
So I was like the worst source in the universe, which also loops into the thing about, hey, did this song inspire that? Is like, I don't know the song. I don't know the group you're talking about.
Yeah.
Um, and it would be really popular people as it turned out. And I just didn't know because I wasn't listening to music and I'm not really listening today. I find current music just generally speaking awful, that it's
Yeah.
about nothing and there's no particular melody.
I can't even speak with any, authority on that because I'm not listening to it. But I suppose that's because anytime I hear something new, it doesn't pull me in, and I'll switch it off and I'll turn it over. But Yeah. And I mean, I remember
I
you
feel
said
like kids are missing something. Sorry to interrupt, but
that's okay.
I feel like uh, my generation and the one after, music is a powerful force. It helps console us. It helps us learn. It helps us be brave. It does tons of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and it does it better than any other entity can.
Yeah.
And the current generation doesn't have that, and I think that's why you read so much about uh, dissatisfaction and unhappiness. It's because they don't have this thing that they can listen to a little transistor radio at night when they go to bed and hear their favorite song on the radio, that because they just broke up with their girlfriend, but cry themselves to sleep. But you know what? They're better in the morning. You
Yeah.
get up and you're ready to take another swing at it. And
It's just
um,
so
it's it's a powerful tool.
it's such a shame because it's all still out there. You know, you could listen to
Yeah.
everything. I mean, Jim, I listened to 14 volumes of compilation of your music in preparation for this, and it's insane. You know, I talked to you earlier about the archiving. Like those uncaged compilations on Spotify are brilliant for hearing all those different sort of interim mixes of some of your stuff, and you know, deep cuts. And I had a whole question prepared about the piece of music that you did for the Bean Street Posse, which I think is literally one bar of music just played over and over. And
That
the idea
that
that
absolutely. And I would do that because I'm just playing, I'm on auto mode playing something,
yeah,
and in my mind, I'm trying to come up with a melody or a lyric idea or something. So you get a lot of tracks like that, you're like, what the hell is this person doing?
well, I mean, the
He's
story that
gone insane, I think.
the way I wanted to frame it to you was the Main Street Posse's music is just a bar on a loop. I don't even think 4 bars, and it's you strumming a guitar, and there's an electric piano in there. And then the alternative to that is something like the Rock's music, which has a developing, you know, sequence of guitar solos. Because the idea is that when the Rock goes out there, and particularly when he wins a match to close a pay-per-view, they're going to be playing that piece of music for 4 or 5 minutes. So the piece of music has to be 4 or 5 minutes long. Whereas the Main Street Posse are never going to close a pay-per-view. So you know, you have to have that understanding, I suppose, as a composer of how much music do we need for these guys. And yeah, but to get back to my point, like all your stuff's on Spotify there, and I went through almost all of it. But you know, because of, you know, they talk about option paralysis with young people, unless they're kind of shown how to find music, how to pursue music, rather than, certainly in my generation, like you said, you'd hear something on the radio, you would be exposed to what you were exposed to, and then you would take that in, and then you would develop your
Mm.
interests, and then you would go out and find it. Whereas now it doesn't seem to be it doesn't seem to be the case.
Well, I wish parents were playing music in their homes more so their kids would hear it.
You wouldn't wish
Because
that
I
if you
think,
listened to the music that I
I
was
think,
playing in my home. You wouldn't wish that my kids, my 5 and 3 year old, were listening to the music that I'm
well,
playing.
I'm not sure if that's true. You know, even if it's something that has virtually no hope of becoming music that they're going to embrace in the future, it's music, and it's just
It's still a
it sinks
reference
it
point for them.
sinks in that, like, if even if it's not making the kid feel something, he or she sees that it makes his parents feel something,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
it opens at least the door to, I wonder if I could find something that makes me feel like that.
That's a beautiful point.
And then if you're open to it, eventually they're going to hear something. And that's the amazing thing about music. It's like whether you're looking to feel something or not, when the right sound comes along, it will make you feel something.
Yeah,
And something will click in your brain and say, like, oh, now I get it.
yeah. How did you feel about pastiche in your own music, Jim? In terms of, you did a theme for Dean Malenko. It was like a kind of like a James Bond style thing. Christian had a theme that was a take, I suppose, on Bohemian Rhapsody. Obviously, the two most famous examples were the Armageddon theme that was the Doors. The end by the Doors was kind of a nod to that, And then in The Undertaker, you've got Chopin.
Oh, the end theme. You know what? That was a mistake on my part because if I hadn't used that singer, I bet you wouldn't say that.
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Because, again, I would pick up a guitar and play you sort of how I wrote it originally.
Yeah.
And it's just a very, I just wanted to write this very dark, uh, finalistic thing,
Yeah.
vibe. And I've forgotten if I found him or someone suggested it. It's like, this guy, I know this guy who sounds like Jim Morrison. And I went with it, and I shouldn't have. That was a failure on my part because that steered it in that direction. And I remember after that, I almost always would tell singers, I don't want you to sound like somebody. I want
Yeah.
you to sound like you. Whatever impression you might have, or if you think, I'm going for something here, uh,
Yeah.
I want you to sing like you. And a lot of singers, most singers, unfortunately, their voices tend to be at least similar to, or they've been inspired by someone who they loved. And then so their vocal style kind of veers over in that direction.
Of course.
And they tend to be a little imitative stylistically. And it's very difficult to get people to have the confidence. I just want you to sing like you. Just sing like you. Because up until the time they hear that, they have equated the closer I can get to sounding like Britney Spears, the closer I'm getting to success and feeling confident. And it's like, well, real confidence is just singing.
Did you have that concern too with because Chris Warren? I know you were very friendly with Chris Warren,
Yeah,
and people for
yeah.
years always thought that the DX theme, that he sounded like Zach De La Rocca on that, which I can kind of hear, but kind of not. I think it's more to do with just like you suggest, just the natural sound of his voice. But he's not.
Yeah.
He's not performing like Zach
Sort
De
of
La Rocca.
that kind of snotty white rapper kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it worked for DX, and I liked that he was both dead serious about what he did, but I liked that it almost came off with a little bit of parody of that, because he had a level of humor when he would when he did those when we were doing those that was so funny, coming up with the little ad libs that were in the introduction of DX,
Yeah.
because that was, I mean, I was flying blind. Is like what first of all, that broke all the rules. I couldn't believe that I got that one through the door, because long intros
Yeah.
as entrance themes,
Yes.
cardinal rule.
It's the
No.
antithesis. It's the antithesis of the Sting. That you sometimes talk about. The do you smell what the rock is
opposite
cooking,
of,
or the
Austin's theme.
of
It's
the
like
glass?
just
Yeah.
punch you in the face.
Yeah.
And this is like, when is it was like 20 seconds.
Yeah.
or
Where's
something.
the song?
But I knew I really liked and believed in just the dun dun, because it was so something's coming,
Something's
so
coming.
ominous.
That's exactly what
it
I was
was
going to
so soundtracky.
Yeah.
It was that kind of thing that would be in a horror movie that would just come on like dun dun,
Mm-hmm.
and oh damn, the guy's gonna the crazy Freddy or someone is gonna jump out and stab the poor teenager any second.
Yeah.
So you're waiting for it. It's kind of the old Alfred Hitchcock thing. It's like the way to really scare people is show them exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Show them the guy waiting behind the couch.
There's a bomb under the bed. Yeah.
Yeah. So the audience can be feeling, it's like, no, Paul, don't go in there. Don't go in there.
Yeah.
It makes it that much better. So I knew I had to fill it with something. You can't just go with the bass drum and the dun dun, the guitar for that long.
Yeah.
So I put Chris. I had a microphone here, and then I put Chris right across from me, and then I did like a 10-minute or 20-minute loop of the dum dum, and I just started saying things. I say, just say whatever I say, but in your, you know,
Yeah. Make it
go
you.
fuck yourself tone of voice.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Uh, and and I just, it was like cool. I was like living out the dream of being a threatening wrestler or something. It's like, you think you can tell us what to do? And he'd
Yeah,
go,
yeah,
you
yeah.
think you can tell us what to do?
Yeah. That's
And I
amazing.
had so much material to work with, and it was hard to narrow it down to the ones I used.
That's great. I mean, he did the, was it the national anthem at SummerSlam maybe? But
Oh my God, I
I mean,
forgot about that.
it
Yeah,
like you talk about fuck you
yeah.
attitude. Like I mean, he massacred that thing on purpose, and it's such a heel thing to do. It was.
I
I
know.
think at that stage DX was really popular. So rather than it being aligned with them, it was nearly the opposite. And the first time I watched it, I was like, oh man, this is awful. And then I got it. I was like, oh no, no, that's a sense of humor. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, he was great. And I'll use this word again. You know that song is inextricable from the identity of that group. And you talk about something's coming. You know, with DX, something was coming. WWF was turning the corner, coming out of the Attitude Era. You've got DX, you've got Stone Cold on the up and up. It was, yeah, really exciting time.
It's also that, something like the DX, it worked for them too, um, because that, whatever it was, 15 or 20 seconds, the the performers are getting jacked up as well
Yeah,
because they feel it coming. It's sort of like a countdown of a rocket. It's like, oh
yeah,
my God, all right, 10 more seconds before I might have the greatest success and exciting thing in my life, or I might blow up.
yeah. So some
Like 11 seconds from now, I might be dead. So, your emotions have to be really running hot. And I think that served those guys well because when they finally came out,
yeah,
oh my God, they were raring to go.
and
And the audience is raring to go.
particularly with the number of them as well, because you're talking about like over the course of that group, maybe five or six people there, rather than just being like one wrestler's entrance.
Hey, that concept worked. Yeah.
In terms of whenever they went with library pieces. So I'll give you a couple of famous examples. The Hardy Boys piece of music, the original one, Loaded, that was a library
Mhm.
piece.
Yeah.
The original Dudley Boys theme, that was from a library. The Crash and Hardcore Holly was from a library too. Uh, without trying to stir anything up, how did you feel about that? Did you think, well, I'm the guy, why am
Well,
I,
part of it,
you
I
know?
understood the necessity because I can only compose a certain amount of music. I can
Yeah,
compose a lot of music, but the demand for music and the product when we were growing so rapidly
yeah,
and having more and more shows and more characters and then international and there was no way I could keep up with it. And but yeah, there would be times when they would use a piece of library music and I would feel like, it's just it inevitably, to me, personal opinion, lacked that truth we were talking about earlier. It,
yeah,
it lacked that real connection that it was a piece of music that felt applied to this person,
yeah.
as opposed to um, a piece of music that virtually came out of this person. Um, so did it work? Yeah, a bunch of them worked fine, but I think that's why really popular music, popular films are not using library music for their scores.
Yes,
It always struck me that like I'd listen to the library music and back to my comment about I'm not a good mixer. They're performed perfectly
yeah,
and they're mixed beautifully and they sound great, both the band things and the orchestral things.
yeah.
They're so good. And yet they sound like library music. They they lack the heart and soul um, that at least I'm going for in
Yeah,
my music.
they're
And
designed to be broadly applicable for use of for a range of sources. You know.
I'm not even sure they're designed for that. I
You don't think?
I think it's um, I think a lot of them probably have greater meaning to the composer than they do to the average listener.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't want to sound trashy because
Yeah.
that is just uncool, but it's um,
Judicious use of library music can be, I'll use the word transformative again, but I don't know if you ever saw the original Night of the Living Dead, the black and white Romero Night of the Living Dead.
no,
Is all library music, because they made that film independently, but what they did with the library music, the way in which they applied effects to it. It's the contextualization of that kind of music that turns it into something that either works or doesn't.
yes.
But in terms of all those pieces that I just mentioned, I mean, eventually you got a chance to record your own. I suppose you could say versions of those themes. Your version of the Jeff Hardy, what became the Jeff Hardy theme, is like the library theme. Your version of the Dudley Boys music is somewhat like the library version. The theme that you recorded for Hardcore Holly is, I mean, you say there wasn't a lot of rock and metal. That's a headbanger. That one is brilliant. You know, me and my friends, we were banging the head to that. I remember when we all had long hair back in the early 2000s. But Jim, did you relish the opportunity to kind of then get a chance to put your stamp on those pieces of music? And did you feel like you had to sort of stay in a lane there because you were essentially replacing an established piece of music?
Yeah, I hated having to stay in the lane.
Yeah.
God, I hated it. But sometimes those things were business decisions when Vince realized that by using library music, we're giving all that publishing income away.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a business money factor in that decision as well. So a lot of times that's what drove that. But yeah, I hated being told, can you do a ripoff of this piece of music?
Were you friendly with Jimmy Hart?
Completely friendly, rarely together because he was always out on the road. But um, he was, I mean, I thought we were friendly. Yeah, I don't know what he said, how he feels about me, but it always seemed friendly.
His late 90s work in WCW was famously, that's exactly what the directive was, can you give us a version of Even Flow by Pearl Jam, or can you do like a Nirvana, like a take on a Nirvana song so we can give it to the rest of the, but all the WCW stuff was sound alike stuff, which is the antithesis of what
I was always amazed they got away with that.
I think they must have changed just enough notes to keep on the right side of the.
I guess they have good lawyers.
Yeah. Just a handful left, Jim, if you're okay for time. Yeah. The Undertaker's theme was in place for probably 8 years before you replaced that with the upbeat kind of the up-tempo rock, the rock version of it.
Yeah.
Were you excited about that, or was it just another day at the office? How did you feel about taking what I suppose, if anybody was paying attention to you at that stage, was probably your most celebrated piece of work, and there's very little of the melodic DNA in the Ministry of Darkness version, whatever you want to call it, from the original piece, which obviously had no drum beat, and it was all strings. How did you feel about that piece of music? Because that's another
I understood.
classic.
It had been a long time, and I think Mark was ready to move to something a little different. Then later he moved to the motorcycle guy for a while, which I think never really worked out. But I get it. It's tough to do the same thing night after night. It's the eternal problem of incredibly popular bands where the crowd wants to hear the greatest hits and the band wants to play the new music, and it's a complete disconnect because it's like, oh God, another new song, So and I ended up liking that groove, but I always thought that there was much greater strength and much more opportunity in taking that character keep that character, but take the character down a surprisingly new road.
Yeah.
Like uh, discover something about his past, or um, I don't know, have him become a spirit,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
who we rarely see, but we hear,
Yes.
uh, and do some special effects of like you you sort of see something coming down the ramp to his music, but
Mm-hmm.
there's no one there.
Yeah, they did a gimmick at the Royal
And
Rumble,
like
and
that there's some other guy in the ring who's yelling at him,
yeah,
well, I'll kick your ass, and that mysteriously, he gets
yeah,
knocked down in the middle of the ring when there's nobody else there. I
yeah,
don't,
yeah,
just I think there are a lot of I'd never thought about that before. That just came to me. That was just one idea.
yeah.
I'm sure the guys who are the really great writers could come up with 100 ideas.
Yeah,
And
they played about with some of that. They did some kind of gimmicky stuff, and there was a time
yeah,
when like his bell would hit, and the lights would
yeah,
go out and then come back on, and he wasn't there, but something
yeah.
would have went wrong, or something would have been different. Would you have felt a heightened sense of responsibility in a case like that, where we've got a guy, he's at the top, the music is at the top, it's all part of his entrance, the slowness, I really, really got to deliver with what I replace this with. And I wanted to ask you too, Jim, about the introduction to that, where he's speaking Irish. Do you know where you got that from? Because I know where it comes from, but I'm wondering, do you know where it came from, and did that come from you, or did anybody else contribute with that one?
I think like kind of Alinatha
He
or
says
something.
Anil Nathrak specifically. Yeah, that's what he says. But it's from.
Is that the Gaelic?
It is. Yeah. It popularized by the movie Excalibur.
I
And
love that movie.
yeah, and I'm just wondering, is that, do you think that that's where you picked that up from? It's also the
No,
name
I
of
was
a.
given that from him saying it.
He
That was just
okay.
something.
They'd already
It
recorded
was
it,
like,
and
hey, he's doing it. It was from some promo he did,
yes,
and I've forgotten if they said put it up front, or if I thought like that sounds cool, let's put that up front. But no, I did not know that's where it came from.
no, that's interesting. It's also the interest. It's the name of a very extreme metal band from over this direction as well. But
What does it mean?
I'm not sure. It's a part of a curse. Anil Nathrak, I think, he says to tre diende, Anil Nathrak, and then he says something longer later on. But I'm worried about translating it and speaking it into. If I speak it in my own language, I might invoke
Yeah,
it, and
well,
I don't want to take any
find
risks.
out what it means, send me the translation.
100%, I will do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very very quick one. Do you play drums, or were your drum tracks programmed?
I play drums,
Yes.
but again, generally because of speed, timing constraints,
Yeah, just
it just
what you
became
need.
easier to do it. But I not a lot easier, because I really like the feel of I don't like perfect drums.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like when you drum machines that are just perfectly on the grid. So I spend a lot of time um, moving the snare around, and programming hi-hats so it sounds like someone playing a hi-hat. And
Yeah, I say this as a compliment, but you can hear that on some of those tracks, like with the New Age Outlaws in particular. It sounds like it sounds like a live performance, and it's really interesting. I always liked your drum parts, Jim, as a drummer. I always like listening to those drum parts, so I've always wanted to ask you that. But it's very amusing on the Anthology CD. You remember there was a three disc CD that came
yeah,
out,
yeah,
and it was like a then and now, and then
yeah.
well then and now, but the drum machine sounds, or whatever the sounds that you used for basically the Attitude Era, it was basically the same on like most of the tracks. And then you got an upgrade for Brock Lesnar and Christian, and a lot of that stuff. But that always appealed to me, just that you had, like you said earlier about the mixing and the speed of necessity sometimes, is that your drums just had a sound, and then that sound changed once, and then you did that for a couple of years, and then it went off in another direction. But that's not really a question, that's just a nerdy observation.
Well, probably technology ruled the day of what I had available.
Of course,
Early
yeah.
on, it was probably the sequential samplers of the very small library of drums I had, and a couple of early drum machines. And then for I think the one I used the longest was an Emu SP12 drum machine.
Okay, yeah. So do you think the Emu SP when would that would have the sound in it that's recognizable in those themes? Then probably. Did you just go for a default setting? You didn't get in there and fool about with the manipulation of sounds and everything in much detail.
Sometimes I would, yeah, but not a whole lot. I think I was much more focused on the groove than anything else.
Yes.
I think I would mess with the tuning, but probably I mess with the tuning just to try to sound a little bit different from track to track.
Yeah.
Those things, it's amazing, how far that technology has come because
they're
drums,
loading in.
Take a lot of memory, and
yeah,
those machines, and that was an expensive machine.
Yeah.
The SP12 at the time. There weren't. They're just maybe two kicks or something. Two snares. No round robin redundancy or anything like that.
Yeah, I've got some libraries on this computer here, and they take up a lot of space now.
On the drum thing, I'm curious if you'll find this interesting or if you've come across this. It drives me nuts with the sophistication of libraries now, with Tune Track and
I use Tune Track.
Hi-hats are still horrible. They're recorded incredibly well.
Yeah.
But a hi-hat, in the course of a song, a drummer is going to hit samples that are going to create probably 300 legitimate different samples.
Yes.
On the hi-hat.
Yeah.
And so I ended up programming my own hi-hat sample. So it's got 5 notes, 5 keys, but each of the 5 keys have about 30 velocity layers.
Yeah.
And it makes such a difference to the sound of a programmed kit.
Of course, 100%.
And back in the SP12 days, I got around it by just playing a live hi-hat track over, and I'd do the bass, snare, and toms on the machine.
Brilliant. Yeah, you're right. I am very interested to hear about all of that.
It makes such a difference.
On higher end kits, I imagine it probably has improved some, but I suppose it depends on how much you have.
I keep up with the latest versions of, and I've got lucky enough to have all of these different libraries.
Yeah.
XTO and Addictive Drums and all the Slate stuff. And
yeah.
Nobody does hi-hats, and it's amazing because most of these people are drummers. And it's like, come on, guys. It's, hi-hat is
crucial. One
of the most sophisticated pieces in a drum kit.
Yeah.
Or no, it is the most sophisticated piece in a drum kit.
Well, even
also, crash cymbals too. There are so many different levels of a crash, and how a drummer uses it to make a little accent versus to just make an explosion. And
if you talk about the
rarely covered
the sophistication of the hi-hat, like never mind drum solos, Buddy Rich would have played a hi-hat solo, and he would have been on top of and underneath. And everything you could get out of a hi-hat, Buddy Rich would have done it, and that thing can't replicate it.
Working the bell for a little accent rather than just a tight hit. All that stuff. Ringo Starr.
Yeah.
Boy, he worked an open hi-hat like nobody else.
Yeah, still doesn't get the credit for it.
Like a wave of a rhythm through a song.
Yeah. Yeah, great drummer. It's just one of these things people like to jump on the Ringo bashing bandwagon, but. Yeah, great player. Yeah.
Who's your favorite drummer?
My favorite drummer is a guy that I've actually had on the show this week. His name is Nicholas Barker, and he's an extreme metal drummer, but he's a brilliantly musical guy. So he plays very fast and very hard, but with fantastic musicality and composition. And in terms of people that you might have heard of, I'm a big fan of Neil Peart that played for Rush for many years. But I like all kinds. And Buddy Rich, I'm listening to Buddy Rich all the time. And listening to Buddy Rich makes me feel like a child. I just listen to it in complete awe. I can't understand how he's doing what he's doing, but it's just like, you don't. It's not the kind of guy you listen to and think, right, I'm going to try and learn how to play like that. I just have to step back and listen to it as a fan,
He was such a straight. He's left the party, has he not?
Buddy Richie has, yeah.
Yeah. He was. I've seen videos and just a personal mean thing to say, but he always sort of bugged me because he's got that Vegas vibe where he's just always smiling.
Yeah.
And it's like too much showman for me.
Oh, he was a showman.
But
yeah.
Just an incredible. His fluidity. You just feel his entire body, every single muscle is going to the rhythm of what he's playing, and it's the classic thing. It's like watching a great athlete. It just seems effortless. It's like watching Roger Federer play tennis. It's like, oh my God, it can't be that easy.
You're a fan of composers and that sort of thing, Jim. You should check out the Buddy Rich Band doing the West Side Story medley, because you'll hear that music recontextualized within the big band setting. But watching him play that is extraordinary.
Wow. That's one of my favorite scores too.
It's brilliant. Yeah, I mean, it's listening to Buddy Rich is how I ended up getting into that. But it's on a. You'll definitely get it on YouTube. One of the later recordings of them playing that, but you have to check it out. It's extraordinary. I mean, he made one of my favorite jokes of all time when he was on the Muppet Show, and he's playing a solo. I think he starts on the kit, and then he just starts moving around the room, and he's playing reasonably tastefully, with his sticks on just everything, on like lamps and the walls, and he kind of moves his way on up around the set, around the back, and then at one stage he just turns and looks to the camera and he goes, "When I play a theater, I play the theater," because he's physically playing. But yeah, he was great. My kids are due home any minute, Jim. I have enjoyed talking to you so much. I've got a whole bunch of
kids?
5 and 3. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So I have a whole bunch of questions I didn't get to, and I don't know, maybe sometime if you want to come back, you're always welcome, and I'll get some more stuff out of you. Some more.
This has been great. You have a great vibe, and you make it conversational versus kind of a rote.
Well,
I've got 27 questions, and let's go through them.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I've got away with that, but the questions are there, but it's much. Yeah, it's just really, really fun talking to you, to be honest with you, and I would have loved to talk about a bunch more stuff, but
no, I'll come back. Let's do it again sometime.
100%. I appreciate it. Listen, Jim Johnston, thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.
Okay, take care. Have
Cheers.
a great day. Enjoy your kids.
Yeah, cheers. Bye.